Picture this. You're in a room with two men. One is desperately trying to prove he's alpha, talking loud, bragging about money, putting others down to make himself look bigger. The other is quiet, focused, building something meaningful while everyone else argues. Which one is real power? If you said the second guy, congratulations. You just understood something that 99% of men get completely backwards. And 150 years ago, Friedrich Nietzsche figured out exactly why most people confuse real power with fake dominance. Look, I'm going to teach you something that will fundamentally change how you think about ambition, success, and what it means to be powerful. Your father didn't teach you this because his father didn't teach him. Society sure as hell doesn't want you to understand this. And most men will spend their entire lives chasing the wrong kind of power. Nietzsche called it the will to power, and it's the most misunderstood concept in philosophy. People think it means being dominant, aggressive, stepping on others to get ahead. Wrong. Dead wrong. Here's what Nietzsche actually discovered. True power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. So why didn't anyone teach you the difference? Simple. Because weak people benefit when strong people chase the wrong kind of power. Because society needs you confused about what real strength looks like. Because men who understand true power become impossible to manipulate. I'm about to show you what real power looks like. And once you see it, you can never go back to the fake version. Here's the first truth your father never told you. The will to power isn't about power over others. It's about power over yourself, your circumstances, your potential. Nietzsche wrote, "What is good? All that heightens the feeling of power in man. The will to power, power itself." Translation: real power is the drive to become more than you currently are, to transform obstacles into opportunities, to create something valuable from nothing. Think about the most powerful men you actually respect. Not the loudest guys in the room, but the ones who command genuine respect. What do they all have in common? They've mastered themselves first. They don't need to prove their power because it's obvious in everything they do. They don't chase validation because they're too busy creating value. That's the will to power in action, not domination. Self-expansion. The 3 levels of power. Most men never leave level 1. Here's where most people get confused. Nietzsche identified 3 distinct levels of power, and 90% of men get stuck on the lowest one. Level 1. Power over others. Fake power. This is the guy who needs to be the loudest in every conversation, who puts others down to feel bigger, who uses money, status, or position to make people comply, who mistakes fear for respect. This isn't power. This is weakness disguised as strength. It's what happens when insecure men try to fill their internal void by controlling external things. Level 2. Power with others. Social power. This is the man who builds alliances, creates win-win situations, inspires others to follow him willingly. He understands that real influence comes from adding value, not demanding compliance. Better than level 1, but still dependent on others for validation. Level 3. Power over yourself. True power. This is the man who has conquered his own weaknesses, fears, and limiting beliefs, who can delay gratification for long-term gains, who doesn't need external validation because his internal standards are higher than society's expectations. This is what Nietzsche meant by the will to power, the drive to continuously become a higher version of yourself. Why most men chase fake power? Your father probably never told you this, but here's why most men get trapped in level 1 fake power. It's easier. Trying to control others requires no self-discipline. Trying to control yourself requires everything. It's faster. You can dominate someone today. Mastering yourself takes years. It's more obvious. Other people can see you bossing someone around. They can't see your internal growth. But here's the brutal reality. Fake power is exhausting. You have to constantly maintain it. The moment you stop enforcing your dominance, people stop respecting you. Real power is effortless. When you've mastered yourself, people naturally want to follow your example. You don't have to demand respect because you've earned it through excellence. The will to power in your daily life. Let me show you what this looks like in practical situations. In your career, fake power. I deserve this promotion because I've been here longest. These other guys don't work as hard as me. Real power. I've developed skills that make me indispensable. I create so much value that promoting me is the obvious choice. In relationships, fake power. She should appreciate me more. I do so much for her. Other guys wouldn't treat her this well. Real power. I've become the kind of man that high-quality women naturally want to be with. I attract through excellence, not neediness. In social situations, fake power. Everyone needs to know how successful / smart / important I am. Let me tell you about my achievements. Real power. My results speak for themselves. I'm more interested in understanding others than impressing them. See the difference? Fake power is always about what others should do for you. Real power is always about what you can become. The internal revolution. Here's something your father definitely didn't teach you. The will to power starts with a revolution inside your own mind. Most men are at war with themselves. They want to be disciplined, but choose comfort. They want to be confident, but focus on their weaknesses. They want to be successful, but avoid the work required. Nietzsche's insight. Until you win the war inside yourself, you'll always be weak in the external world. The will to power means becoming your own toughest opponent and your own greatest ally. It means setting standards for yourself that are higher than what anyone else expects from you. Think about it. The man who can make himself do hard things when he doesn't feel like it, that man has real power. The man who needs external motivation, external pressure, external rewards to perform, that man is a slave to circumstances. But here's where it gets really practical. The will to power isn't just a philosophy. It's a daily practice of conquering the parts of yourself that want to stay small. Every morning, you wake up with a choice. Will you do what's easy or what's necessary? Here, what is easy? Hit snooze. Skip the workout. Avoid the difficult conversation. Choose instant gratification. And then here is what are necessary. Get up immediately. Do the work that builds your future. Have the conversations that create clarity. Choose long-term results over short-term comfort. The man with real power doesn't rely on motivation. He's built systems that make the right choice automatic. He's trained himself to want what's good for him. Here's the secret. Willpower isn't a limited resource you use up. It's a muscle that gets stronger every time you use it. Now here's what most people miss about Nietzsche's concept. The will to power isn't just about self-control. It's about self-creation. Think about it. Animals are born with their nature already determined. A lion will always be a lion. A sheep will always be a sheep. But humans? We're the only species that can consciously evolve. We can decide who we want to become and then become that person through disciplined action. That's the most powerful thing in the universe. The ability to recreate yourself. The will to power means taking responsibility for your own evolution. Not accepting the personality you inherited. Not settling for the circumstances you were born into. Not limiting yourself to what others think you're capable of. It means becoming an artist, and you are the masterpiece. Power versus force. Here's where Nietzsche gets really sophisticated. He understood the difference between power and force, and most men confuse the two. Force is what you use when you're weak. You have to push, pressure, manipulate, threaten. Force creates resistance. Power is what you have when you're strong. People willingly follow your example. Power creates attraction. The man who uses force is always fighting. The man who has power barely has to try. Think about the most influential people in your life. Did they force you to respect them? Or did you naturally want to become more like them because of who they were? That's the difference. Force is external pressure. Power is internal magnetism. The danger of fake power. But here's the warning Nietzsche would give you about chasing the wrong kind of power. It corrupts you. When you try to control others instead of yourself, you become dependent on their weakness. You need them to stay small so you can feel big. It isolates you. People comply with force, but they don't genuinely connect with it. You end up surrounded by people who fear you, but don't respect you. It's temporary. Force requires constant maintenance. The moment you stop applying pressure, people rebel. But real power compounds. The stronger you become, the stronger your influence becomes. Most importantly, fake power prevents real growth. When you're focused on dominating others, you stop working on yourself. You plateau because you're getting your validation from the wrong source. Building real power. So how do you develop genuine will to power? Here's Nietzsche's prescription. 1. Master your impulses. Can you delay gratification? Can you choose the hard right over the easy wrong? Can you do what you said you'd do, especially when you don't feel like it? This isn't about becoming a robot. It's about becoming someone who can trust himself. 2. Create value. Real power comes from being useful. What can you do that makes other people's lives better? What problems can you solve? What value can you create? The more valuable you become, the more power you naturally have. 3. Embrace difficulty. Nietzsche said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." Not because suffering is good, but because voluntarily facing challenges builds your capacity. The man who seeks easy lives stays weak. The man who embraces difficult lives grows strong. 4. Set higher standards. Don't accept society's definition of success. Don't settle for other people's expectations. Set standards for yourself that inspire you to become more than you currently are. Real power means being your own toughest critic and your own biggest supporter. Here's how you know if you have real will to power. You don't need anyone else to recognize it. The man with fake power needs constant validation. He needs people to acknowledge his status, praise his achievements, fear his authority. The man with real power is focused on the work itself. He gets his satisfaction from the process of becoming stronger, not from other people's reactions to his strength. If you removed all external recognition from your life, no social media likes, no job title, no one to impress, would you still do the work? Would you still pursue excellence? Would you still push yourself to grow? If yes, you understand the will to power. If no, you're still chasing fake power. Your reality check. So here's your reality check. Every day, you're either becoming more powerful or more powerless. There's no neutral. When you choose comfort over growth, you become weaker. When you choose validation over truth, you become weaker. When you choose blame over responsibility, you become weaker. But when you choose the hard right over the easy wrong, you become stronger. When you choose long-term results over short-term pleasure, you become stronger. When you choose to create value instead of demanding recognition, you become stronger. The uncomfortable truth is that most men never develop real power because they're afraid of what it requires. Complete responsibility for your own life. No excuses, no victims, no one to blame when things don't work out. Just you, your choices, and the relentless pursuit of becoming worthy of the life you want. So what are you going to do with this knowledge? You can keep chasing fake power, trying to control others, seeking external validation, using force instead of building strength. Or you can start developing real will to power, mastering yourself, creating value, becoming someone worth following. Here's what Nietzsche understood that most people never will. The most powerful thing you can do is become a man who doesn't need power over others because he has complete power over himself. That man doesn't need to prove he's alpha because it's obvious in everything he does. That man doesn't need to put others down because he's too busy lifting himself up. That man doesn't need external validation because he's built internal standards that are higher than society's expectations. The world needs more men like that. Men who lead by example. Men who inspire through excellence. Men who create value instead of demanding recognition. The question isn't whether you want power. The question is, what kind of power are you willing to build? Because once you understand that real power comes from within, you realize something incredible. You were never powerless. You were just looking in the wrong direction. The choice, as always, is yours. If this changed how you think about power forever, subscribe right now. Because next week, I'm going to show you Nietzsche's most challenging concept, eternal recurrence. The ultimate life test that will force you to examine whether your life is actually worth living. This isn't motivational speaking. This is the philosophical framework that separates men who create meaning from men who consume it. Don't miss it. Your future self depends on it.